Hi, this is Ben Meyer with Ben Meyer Dog Training, and I just wanted to make a little video explaining my philosophy about dog training. So for me, fundamental building block of everything that I do when it comes to understanding dogs, and my whole approach with this training is to try and understand your dogs a little bit better, try and see things through their perspective, get inside the ears of your dog to make it easier to communicate with them and easier for them to figure out what you need them to do, make it easier for them to integrate into your lives so you can bring them with you to as many places as possible so they can be polite, sweet, lovely members of your family, members of your household. And so today I just want to chat about what my philosophy is, how I go about doing what I do. So for me, absolute building block of everything that I do when it comes to understanding dogs starts from this idea that they are pack animals. And what does that mean? Pack animals to me means that they belong in a family. They're family animals. They're group animals. They don't do too well by themselves. They're not loners. They need that family. They need that love. They need that connection. They need that communication. And within that family, and how do we use this? There's always a little bit of a structure. It's not like we're having a democracy where we're having Monday morning meetings with our dogs and we're saying, okay, guys, 7 a.m. meeting, let's put a show of paws. Are we going to be good dogs today or are we going to be not good dogs? Are we going to be pullers and it's 3 paws for pulling, 1 paw for no pulling? Okay, today is a pulling day. Are we going to bark at the Amazon guy? 3 paws for barking at the Amazon guy, 1 paw for not barking. Okay, now we're going to bark all day today. It doesn't work that way. There's very much leaders and followers within that pack. Leaders and followers. And every dog has this innate need for leadership. This innate need. There has to be someone, animal or human, calling the shots. And it actually makes them feel good when there's a consistent leader in the home. And what I find with lots of training, and I get lots of clients whose dogs have been to the puppy classes, and so the dogs know the commands, and they'll do them sometimes. When you're in the kitchen with the right kind of treat, sure, I'll do my sit for you then. But when the doorbell rings, but when you see another dog, but when they're protecting their food, now all of a sudden you can give the command. They know what it means. You clearly know that they know what it means, and they choose to ignore you. And so for me, establishing that leadership is really important. It's sort of two sides of the coin. Number one, with obedience, it's let's teach dogs what do the words mean. What does sit mean? What does down mean? What does stay mean? What does come mean? All of these things, right? That's part of it. The other part of it is, will your dogs actually listen to you when you need them to? When you're in an environment that's a little more stressful, a little more excited, a little different from just the confines of your home, when you really, really need them to listen, will they listen? And in order to fulfill that side of the equation, what we have to do is create leadership. Now, leadership can sometimes have a negative connotation for humans, right? We hear leadership and we think about being micromanaged or about being bossed around. And as humans, that goes against our grain, right? Humans want choice. We want freedom. Give me all the flavors of the ice cream to pick from. Give me all the choices in the world. Allow me to do things my way. Allow you to do things your way. We all have our own way for wanting to do things. And this is how people work, right? We usually don't do too well when we're micromanaged. Those of you who are in long-term relationships know this. When you guys have a project that you need to do together, if one of you is micromanaging the other, all of a sudden our hairs go up on our back, we start resisting. It's no fun doing the dishes when we're being told that we're doing it wrong, right? It's just no fun no matter who's doing it. Now, for the dog, it's a little bit different, right? For the dog, it's all about, hey, can I tap into that idea of what does a leader mean? What does it mean to a dog? And to a dog, having a leader means having someone who's there to make sure that they are safe. That's your primary role as a leader, is making sure that your pack is safe and taken care of. Making sure that their needs are being met. That they're getting the right amount of physical exercise. that they're getting the right amount of mental exercise, that they're living in a family and a household with lots of love to share and lots of enrichment and things to do in their day, right? All of these things are really important. To the dogs, it's the leader's job to protect, and it's the leader's job to direct. It's the leader's job to tell the other ones what to do, and it's the leader's job to protect. And as animals, as dogs, they don't resent this. They don't. They actually feel better as long as we're doing it in a way that makes sense to them. In a way that makes sense to them. And leadership has nothing to do with being the tough guy, right? It has nothing to do with being loud, with being physical, with pinning your dog down, with dominating them in that way. That's not it at all. It's not about frightening your dog into doing the things that you want them to do. It's about tapping into their heads in a way that really makes sense to them so that you are a person that they want to follow. That's really what it's about. And then you can teach them all sorts of things depending on their potential and their abilities, and they'll actually follow you. So humans, we're the only species out there that will follow kind of edgy, unstable leaders. Right? We need our leaders to push the envelope a little bit so we can dream bigger. That's who we are as a species. We need Armstrong to go walk on the moon, flying up there in a rocket with all of the computing power of a graphing calculator, so that we can have folks like Elon Musk dreaming about space taxis to Mars or whatever it is he likes to dream about. Right? That's human nature. We like our leaders a little edgy, a little pushy, a little out there. We're okay to follow that. In the animal world and in the dog world, it's a little bit different. They crave stability. They crave consistency. They crave cool, calm, confident body language in their leaders. That's what makes them feel good. It's, can you be cool, calm, and confident even when your dog is doing all sorts of things that make you want to lose your mind? Even when they're barking at the door and it's echoing around the house for the umpteenth time. Even when they're pulling you on the leash or embarrassing you on the walk with their behavior. It's, can we stay cool, calm, and confident while we do this? Right? That's a big one, because controlling our body language and energy often is, if it's anything, if it's even a third or a fourth thought, it's a second thought. Right? It's not something that comes naturally to most humans. And especially with dogs, we tend to associate dogs with excitement, with letting our guard down, with just getting to be silly, which is great. I'm silly as heck with these guys, right? I'm silly all the time with these guys. And I spoil my dogs. Our dogs sleep in the bedroom or in the bed with us. They get all sorts of snuggles all day long, right? But the idea is, if we can start from this place of cool, calm, confident leadership, all of a sudden it makes it a whole lot easier for the dogs to listen when you really want them to, and not just when they want to. Right? That's a big one. That means that we have to understand that excitement doesn't necessarily equal happy. Just because your dog is excited, you come home from work and you haven't seen your dog and your dog is through the moon excited to see you. It's a joyful thing. It's really nice to see, especially when we're being stressed out all day at work. Right? But if we reward that, now we're teaching the dogs to associate us with excitement. And we're saying, yeah, be excited all the time. And when dogs are excited, it makes it really, really, really difficult for them to listen. They make all sorts of dumb choices when they're excited. Right? It makes it really hard for them to listen. They've got all this adrenaline rushing in their system. It's the same as if you have little kids. When they're bonkers excited, think Halloween night, Christmas morning, right? All of a sudden, they're making choices that they wouldn't make when they're calm. And the whole idea is, can we create calm, confident leaders with calm, pleasant dogs, polite dogs? That's my goal in all of this, right? Can we create calmness? And there's always room for excitement. No problem getting dogs excited when you want. Kiwi, place. But we have to be able to have an off switch. We have to be able to turn off the excitement. And to do that, we have to make calm the practice. This is how we do it. right? Now it's your job as their leader to make sure that their physical needs are being met, that they're physically fulfilled, and that they're mentally fulfilled. Physically fulfilled means, to me, walking your dog. Dogs are built to walk. They love to walk. It's what they want to do. It's the single best thing that you can do to show your dog that you love them, that you get them. You had me at wag, right? Is you take your dog for a walk. And whether that walk is a walk where the dog is sniffing all the time or whether they're following you, that's less important than doing the walk itself. If we are skipping the walk and your dog is full of energy and off the chains with excitement, think about how you feel after being stuck inside during, I'm down here in South Florida, during a tropical storm, during a blizzard. We can't get out. Think about how restless we feel. And now think about how that must feel to an animal who is born and bred to be outside, walking 8, 10, 12 miles a day would be a good day for these guys. And so they get a little bonkers when we're like that. And so if we're not fulfilling that need for them, it's not really fair for them to ask them to be calm and sweet and polite. Some dogs you can get away with it. A lot of them you can't. And so a proper walk to me is like 30 to 40-minute walks a day, ideally. At least one really long one. Frankly, you're better off doing one really long walk than you are doing 2 or 3 really short ones. It really scratches that itch in their doggy soul and makes them feel really good. It gives you the ability to practice leadership with your dog. It's what they need more than anything else in the world, is that walk. But the walk itself won't fix everything, and it won't fix your problems. If we can't walk our dogs to calmness. A lot of times what happens is we walk with our dogs or we go play with our dogs and then they rest, they take a nap and they wake up and they're just bonkers excited again. And so this is where the mental stimulation and mental fulfillment comes into play. And the idea here is, are we asking them to use their brain? Are we asking them to use their brain? Right? It's a little like the difference between doing your taxes, doing a big school project, doing a big work project, or walking or jogging a 5K, right? Or taking a really long road trip, right? Versus a really long walk. When we're exercising our brain, we get exhausted in a totally different way. And most of the mental work that we can do with our dogs, we can do in the comfort of our home, in the air conditioning, while we're doing our regular routine. And to me, mental stimulation is pretty simple. It boils down to how many times a day are we actually asking the dog to listen to us? Are we only asking them to listen to us for the 15 minutes that I take him outside? And then I get really frustrated when he doesn't listen to me then? Well, guess what? To the dog, they get to spend 23 hours and 45 minutes doing whatever the heck they want. They lie down wherever they want. They pick from their basket of toys whatever they want. They come bump you for affection and get pets whenever they want. They do whatever they want all day long. And then when things get really exciting, because they're outside, there's someone at the door, we go, listen, listen, listen. And the dog goes, hey, didn't you get the memo? I do what I want. 23 hours and 45 minutes of the day, I do what I want. You think I'm not going to do what I want now? Of course they're going to do what they want now. So the idea is, can we create some simple patterns and simple repetitions during the course of your day that make it easy for the dog to be mentally stimulated? To me, what I find for most dogs, this is very roughly, it's like 80% of dogs, if you can do 2 things consistently, all of a sudden you see massive behavior changes in your dog. The 2 things I like to do are what I call a 90-10 walk, where basically 90% of the time the dog is walking next to you or slightly behind you, not sniffing everything. The other 10% of the time they can sniff, they can pee, they can explore, they can do their thing, but 90% of the time they're walking with you, either in a heel or just following you. Slowing down when you slow down, stopping when you stop. Being made to check in. Hey, what are we doing next? Hey, what are we doing next? And it's those mental repetitions that can really, really turn the walk from a place of physical exercise to a place of physical and mental exercise. And the other thing I like to practice is the place command. And the place command is what Kiwi is doing over here. It basically means lie down in a dog bed. and stay there until I give you a signal that you're allowed to come off. And a lot of times for dogs, finding that off switch, that ability to calm down, learning how to do nothing, the absence of activity, lie down, be still, be calm, even when there's all sorts of excitement around you, is a lot more challenging and frankly a lot more draining than fetching a ball, than swimming in the pool, than going for a run, right? It's draining in a totally different way, and it's something that you can do inside your own home. In our house over here, our dogs practice the place command when we eat. Every time we eat, our dogs go to place. I don't like being begged for food. I want the dogs to give me a little space while I eat. I don't want my children learning that they can sneak or feed the dogs, right? I want space around where I eat. And then when guests come to the house, I might let them say hi to the guests when they first come in, and then I'm like, okay, go to your place so we can socialize. When we go out to the pool, these two dogs love swimming in the pool. They love it. But it's a little dangerous to have big dogs getting all excited in the pool. I've got 3 little kids, right? And so what do? Is we say, yeah, you can be out there with us, but you wait in place. We have a little red bench outside where we put them. And you say, you wait there, and then when the kids are done, you can have a turn. But you've got to learn to wait patiently. That mental exercise is huge, and you can create this as part of your regular routine. Kiwi, place. All right? I want to take a minute and talk about how dogs communicate. Kiwi, you're free. How dogs communicate. Now, humans, we are verbal animals, right? We use our mouths and our ears. And if I listen more to my grandma growing up, she'd tell me, Ben, you got 2 of these and 1 of these, pay attention to the ratio. Right? Now I find myself saying the same thing to my kids, go figure. Right? To the dogs, even though vocalization in the form of a whine, a bark, a growl is clearly part of how they communicate, for the most part, they're communicating with body language, head position, tail position, ear position, eye position, and this concept of pressure and release of pressure. Putting pressure on with their body language, taking pressure off. Right? You will very rarely see dogs share positive reinforcement with one another. That's kind of a human construct. Positive reinforcement is what? The dog does something you want them to do, you give them something they like, they're more likely to do the thing you want them to do, right? And at its base. And although you'll see dogs share affection with one another, little love nibbles, little licks, and things like that, if you have 2 dogs sitting, you won't see the one that sat second give their treat to the one who sat first. Be like, hey, good job. You sat so beautifully and so quickly. Here, take my treat. No, they're going to gobble up that treat. Right? Instead, the way dogs communicate is by putting pressure on with their eye contact. And when they get what they want, they take the pressure off. And I try to take that same communication and apply it to the leash and my own body language. Now, pressure with body language almost always starts with eye contact. We know this pressure when we have somebody giving us the stink eye, or if you're flirting with someone, totally different energy, but same concept. Someone staring at you in not a nice way, it feels weird. They're not doing anything but looking, but it feels weird. And then finally they look away, they break that gaze, and all of a sudden we go, oh boy, that feels a whole lot better. Right? If eye contact doesn't work, then sometimes it'll escalate to vocalization, the whine, a bark, a growl, depending on the situation, depending on the dog. Some dogs skip that step altogether. If that doesn't work, now we're dealing with distance or proximity, right? If a dog doesn't want another dog to come near, they start lunging. Hey, get back from me. Hey, get off, right? When you have a dog like this one right here who's trying to get affection, what does she do? She comes right in front of me, gets real close, right? When they get what they want, little pets, right? Then they back up. Right? And if that doesn't work, we're dealing with physical touch. With a sweet dog that's just looking for affection, they'll do what these 2 do, where they'll put their head right in your lap and they'll be like, you can't ignore me, you have to pet me. Right? And I'm all about loving on the dogs. These 2 are generally well behaved. I have no issue spoiling them. With dogs that are pushy, biting their owners, doing things like this, I would have a problem with loving on them at this moment. But with these guys, I don't really have an issue with that. You see this conversation play out with herding dogs, with a sheepdog herding sheep. Sometimes a herding dog just has to look at a sheep. The herding community will say that dog has strong eye, and the sheep will go, bah, see you later, and walk away. Sometimes the eye doesn't work, right? The dog stares at the sheep to try and get it to move, and the sheep just stares back, stomps its foot. At this point, the dog barks at the sheep. Sheep still doesn't move, the dog lunges at the sheep. Sheep still doesn't move, that sheep's getting nipped in its haunches. And then when the sheep starts to move, the dog backs off. The way I teach lots of things on the leash, we use that same concept. Where usually what happens when dogs pull on the leash, one of the most common behaviors is they put pressure on the leash is being pulled forward, and we release the pressure by following them. And so the dog learns, I put pressure on, the human takes it off for me. And instead what I try and do is flip that script. Flip the script. So that when I tug the leash a little bit, you come to me and I love on you. And one of the base drills that I do for teaching a dog not to pull follows that pattern. Soon as you pull, that's not going to work, we're going a different direction. Right? That's really important. When we're dealing with body language, that pressure and release of pressure is really important. If I want a dog to get away from the door, for example, when I have guests coming in, calling them from behind is a whole lot less effective most of the time than standing in front of them and telling them, hey, back away. I'm going to put pressure on you until you back up a few steps. And there's different commands you can use to create that, like this one, Kiwi, out. Just give me some space. Like, I love you, but give me a little break every now and again. Put the pressure on, create the little space for me. Give me a little bit of a boundary. Right? And so most of what I teach on the leash with our body language and on the leash follows that same pattern. So I want to take a minute and talk about the power of the moment. Now, we have this very loose 1 second rule with dog training, which basically means you have 1 second from whenever your dog makes a decision for you to either agree with that decision or disagree with that decision. That's the foundation of folks that like the clicker training, or they use marker words like yes or good, is they're waiting for that 1 second when the dog makes the choice to reward it, right? Click, here's a treat, you did the right thing. Yes, here's the treat, you did the right thing, right? Or to redirect or correct, to say no. That 1 second rule comes into play again and again and again. And so if we're dealing with a dog that likes to bark at other dogs out the window, for example, or when you're on the leash, I'm not correcting the dog when they're already barking and lunging. Right? At that moment, the moment's passed. The only thing you can really do is give a little distance, create some distance, wait for the dog to calm down. What we want to do is get them at the start of their behavior. And the start of the behavior is always that eye contact. They do this. Hey, leave me alone. Leave me alone. With Kiwi over here, Kiwi out. Right? She really, really, really wants to get touched. Really, really, really wants to get petted. That's what we want, is for her to lie down. Give me a little space. And so catching them in that moment is really incredibly important. And being there with the timing to do so is very, very important. All right, so that moment comes into play both when we're on the leash, when we're dealing with behaviors, when we're saying yes, and when we're saying no. And how we say yes and no becomes important as well. Right? Saying yes is basically positive reinforcement. And what is positive reinforcement? Positive reinforcement is giving your dog something that they like when they do something that you like. Right? And usually that's a food reward. It could be verbal praise. It could be a pet. It could be a toy. It could be getting the leash on. Right? It could be getting to go out the door. It's doing something that the dog wants to do is positive reinforcement. And the idea is, if you want better behaviors out of your dog, you reward them when they're doing the better behaviors. If you can time them with that little 1 second, then all of a sudden everything becomes a lot more clear to the dog, and you get what you want more and more and more. Now, what I find very valuable with positive reinforcement, and what I teach that's maybe a little bit different than what other trainers do, is that positive reinforcement not only rewards what the dog is doing, like you say sit and the butt hits the ground, good sit, here's a treat, now the dog knows what sit means if you do that enough. But far more importantly, when we're dealing with behavior, It reinforces their state of mind. It reinforces how they're feeling at that particular moment. Right? So a lot of times I see people teaching their obedience commands in a squeaky Mickey Mouse high-pitched voice. Okay, Fifi, sit. Good, sit. That's what a good dog. Yes, you are good, sit. Great job. Oh my God, I'm so happy. And the dog learns that sit means sit. Yeah, but they also are so darn excited that as soon as their butt hits the ground and they get the treat, their butt's off the ground again. Because not only are we rewarding the sit, we're rewarding the excitement. We're saying, I'm rewarding you for sitting while being excited. And we know that dogs that are excited make poor choices. They find it really hard to listen. Right? So part of my whole routine, my whole shtick here is like, let's reward the dogs when they're calm. When they're calm, we love on them calmly. I try to keep the Mickey Mouse voice out of this as much as possible. Some dogs, you need it. In certain circumstances, you need it. But for the most part, I'm loving on the dogs in a really pretty measured way. I want to create calm with my dogs as a natural state of being so that when they sit, they're sitting calmly because they're much more likely to stay sitting. I see this misused a lot of times when we're dealing with nervous or anxious dogs. Right? The dog is shaking, they're pacing, they're panting, there's a thunderstorm, they're anxious, they're whining. And what do? We nurture. Come here, sweetie, it's all right. We tell them it's okay. Right? Don't worry, the storm is going to pass soon. Don't worry, that dog isn't going to bother you. That stranger in the house isn't going to bother you. Oh, it's okay. Look, no, it's okay. And while it tells me you're a lovely human being with a big heart, and that I like being around people like that, nice and warm and sweet, to the dog, we can inadvertently nurture the wrong kind of feeling and make it easier for them to stay anxious. We're basically saying, I love how anxious you are. Me, I would rather distract the dog right when that behavior starts, try and change the mindset, and then reward the dog after the mindset is changed. That's my approach for dealing with that. I see this happen a lot with aggressive dogs too. Right? It might be a little dog, it might be a big dog. The dog growls, and the people are like, it's okay. We pet the dog to calm it down. It's all right. Don't worry. You don't have to bark at that. You don't have to bark at that. It's all right. It's all right. And the dog is hearing, it's all right to bark at the other dog. It's all right to growl at that person. Even worse with the little dogs is if we pick them up and do that, because now we took our dog who was 18 inches tall, 2 feet tall, and now we're making them 5 feet tall. And we're making them extra powerful because body language counts. Now they're like, yeah, I'm tall and I'm getting rewarded for being aggressive. Right? So the move is to learn how to redirect their attention, right? Learn how to disagree with that in a fair way and say, don't do that, do this instead. And then when you're in a better state of mind, I'm going to reward that over and over and over again and create those patterns. Right? That's where positive reinforcement comes into play for me in a major, major, major way. And so this is just a little brief introduction into the how I do things, what my philosophy is with dog training. I'm trying to post more videos with specific techniques for how we can make this happen and more specific guidance for how we can do so. I do private training. I do Zoom sessions. I do group classes at a facility called Zen Canine Club, which is down in Miami Lakes. You can find my information in my bio on my website. You can get in touch with me. I would love to chat in person so I can help you create a better relationship with your dog.